I've got a ST200G. So, I played the ST200, I played the standard ST190, and I really liked it. It was very stable, and then I was messing around with all these ones, and I've really liked the G in the back setting with a little bit more spin, just because I don't want the ball to fall out of the sky. I don't have as much speed as someone like Luke, so I'm just trying to get a little bit more spin out of it, but this one's been very good for me. Not the best strike on that one.
What did Keith have you work on? Setup?
He had a couple comments on setup.
Good. Did you hit up on it?
I do. I think I hit up a pretty good amount on it. So
yeah, you pulled quite far forward.
That was a similar. That's what Keith was saying.
It's off your left.
Do you think it's too far left?
That's why I said you probably hit up on it
quite
a lot, because it's quite far forward.
Yep.
I mean, I think forward is probably better than down,
right.
than back.
So,
most people get it too far back, I'd say.
And that's just it. That's why I like a little bit more spin, just because I do hit up on it. So if anything, with my ball speed, I tend to have too low spin, and it can fall out of the sky, because I am usually up almost 3-4 degrees on it.
Not many amateurs would be. Most would be about down 7.
Yeah.
Nice there.
Yeah. It helps to be swinging in South Florida versus 40 degrees and windy up at Sea Island.
This is a cold day for us. Yeah, we got one cold day. Be back in the mid 70s tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, I'm mid 150s in ball speed, so when you're swinging, you're probably mid to high 160s. So I'm a good 10-12 miles an hour slower than you are. Yeah. So ultimately, that's going to mean I need a little bit more launch. I need a little bit more spin to get the ball to stay in the air as much. Yeah. So I do probably play my ball a little bit farther up in my stance than you do, and that's why my spin rates are so low. So we definitely have different approaches, or especially to driving and everything. But
you have a little bit more loft.
I do play a little bit more loft. So yeah, I think this one's set 1 degree up. So again, helping that launch and helping a little more spin as well. Yeah, I always not the biggest guy ever. Always been on the smaller side. So always growing up, I wanted to see how could I get the ball to go farther. And typically, for me to get the ball to go farther, that meant it going up in my stance, and me really hitting a sweeping draw is really how I started getting distance. It's get a little bit stronger growing up, and then you don't need a sweeping draw, but naturally I've ingrained a little bit of almost a lean back and hit up on it swing.
You see even a address, he has quite a lot of, the ball's kind of far forward, and he's kind of got the shaft, and you can see how much lower his right shoulder is at address even, so he's already set up that way to kind of hit kind of up on it a little bit more. So again, and when you grow up as kids, the best way to try and hit it far is to extend those legs as much as possible, and that's kind of a move that a lot of good amateur kids have to slowly get out of them once they get stronger in their body and they can control and have a little bit more stability. But even my swing now, I'm 42 in a few days, I have a tendency to want to do this to try and create speed, and when really you see the good guys that create the most speed are using the ground, they're squatting and then pushing off. So
when you talk about using the ground, explain to me what you mean by that. Is that?
Yeah, so when you get to the top of the swing, your first movement should be that kind of squat, feeling like there's some pressure down in both your ground. And then if you look at the good players who really create more spin, they're actually pushing this foot that way.
Pushing the back foot down into the ground.
Yeah, not the back, kind of the ball on this side of the foot. They're really pushing it. To move this way, you got to push that way. So
almost like
pushing
starting
it down,
running.
And then this foot kind of explodes and moves up off the ground too. You don't see too many people kind of lose this, but you'll see some even like JT will get onto his toes. That he's exploding so far up.
Right.
Or even think about some of the olden players, like Greg Norman was one of the best drivers and hit it very far. He did it so much that way that his foot would almost slip backwards, and that's from that pressure going that way.
So that's something you're physically trying to feel, that push into the ground?
Yeah, I don't do it enough. You know, I tend to get off my foot too quickly, and I kind of lose my emotion, inertia, and from here then my hands take over too much, and I'm too rolling the face a little bit too much, which has caused some inconsistency. So the more you can stabilize from that first bit and then explode up, then you're going to create a bit more speed and a bit more stability.
I've always, again, trying to get more speed, I've always, from the top, I go this way, weight comes this direction.
A lot of people want to, especially amateurs, they want to feel like they want to hit at the ball with their hands, with their arms. You know, and obviously, you look at all the great ball strikers in the world, like, you know, Trevino's and the Hogans and Jack Nicklaus and Norman and stuff like that. What they do is they have that squat and they wait for it. They have a little bit more patience, and then from here they feel like more speed is possible.
Right.
So it's like, and it's getting their body moving up forward, and that creates a bit more stability with the club face too. But yeah, as soon as you do that and you steepen the shaft, you're losing all that speed from here.
Because you're just getting rid of it right there.
You're getting rid of it.
So you almost feel
down, and then you want to feel like the speed after.
Okay.
You really roll that foot, push off the ground, get a little bit more extra speed. Great shot, but maybe a bit more speed. I mean, I certainly would never put myself forward as a great coach, but first of all, so you know, I obviously know kind of my swing, and you pick up bits being around the game, and certainly like short game, I feel like I have a good kind of knack for what to do and the right techniques, but I'd have to look at Chris a little bit longer, see what his tendencies are, but I'm certainly not, I don't know if I'm able to analyze him straight away.
But you right away pointed out the couple of things that I know I do right off the bat.
Yeah.
In terms of coming this direction, in terms of getting my weight forward, in terms of not using the ground well, and the ball position.
Yeah, you definitely want to feel like from here that this butt kind of goes down, sits this way. Like because I know my problem is I tend to go this way too much towards it, and I think that's a recipe for a bit too much inconsistency when you get to longer clubs.
So how do you fight that? You do a lot of, I mean, what's the drill you do to try to get yourself out of that?
Yeah, there's a few little different drills. Sometimes I'll even set up, you know, like little towels or something, like under kind of the heel of my right foot.
Okay.
So when I'm swinging, you know, I just want to feel like I'm squashing that towel when I'm coming, that first movement. And I might even put one under the kind of more the front foot too. And so I'm trying to squash both of those together, feel that squat, and then go. You know, that's kind of good. I do a lot of stuff in the gym with bands to have some weight restricting me. The bands that kind of go around you, and you can get, again, you're just feeling and trying to create those motor patterns as much as possible. So, you know, that's a good one. I've seen lots of different things, but I think that just kind of a lot of people talk about those ground forces these days, and you know, we have obviously great technology now where we can measure it all the time, and so much more technology every year. But in the last 5 years, it seems like ground forces is a word you hear quite a lot, and the guys that really hit it far have good ground forces. You know, they're really using the ground efficiently and getting that club working at the right kind of sequencing. I think you've got to work with what you're given. You know, you have tendencies in your body, you have weaknesses, strengths, and your swing kind of molds towards that. You know, but certainly with learning, being able to understand science and dynamics and how to hit golf balls further, we know that if you can hit up on the ball with pretty low spin, you're going to create more distance, and it's just scientific. It's just science. So, you know, but to be able to go into that and try and do that and making adjustments in your swing that maybe are not going to create a more consistent ball strike, then I don't think that's probably the way forward. But little incremental improvements going towards that, I think is fine. But again, I don't think you want to completely try and reinvent everything from the ground up, because you're still born with your DNA and how you swing, and to really change that is tough. I've tried to do that, and it was very, very difficult. Hard to have hindsight, because I'd look back on my career and think that I've done a lot more in this game than I probably ever would have imagined. Get to number one in the world, win both money lists, all the Ryder Cups I played and stuff, victories in the US and around the world. I mean, I've really enjoyed my golf and think I've got a lot out of it. But I think actually I really had to, in hindsight, probably less is more. Knowing less about my swing and just trying to play golf would probably have given me a little bit more success. Sometimes knowing too much and being too concentrated on that on the golf course gets you away from actually just playing golf shots and stuff. So I think if I was to change one thing, it'd probably be to be a little bit more dumb in a way, and not know so much about the swing. I think in the last 4, 5, 6 years, I've probably tried to learn a little bit too much about it, and probably thought about it too much on the golf course.
Not.
We all as golfers.
Yeah, I mean, you're always
thinking.
Thinking of something. So it's.
You're probably thinking about it more from a technology standpoint. Well, if I hit it here in the high toe, it's should have the right inertia.
I try to think about the angles and stuff like that, as opposed to I'm not good at knowing what my body's gonna do, as opposed to I'm trying to think of the dynamics of it. So it's definitely a different way to think about it. What are your thoughts on there's so many unique swings on tour now. It feels like more than there have been in years. It's like almost people, again, using their bodies and how they move, as opposed to, it seemed like a cookie cutter swing on tour for a number of years. What do you think of that change?
I think it's good if you break down, the pretty swings to the guys that swing very much their own way. You'll still see a lot of similarities. Impact to all the people hit who are considered great ball strikers. I think do a lot of things consistently. They stabilize that club face, they really use the ground well, there's less hands in it, and I think whether you've got someone like a Matt Wolf or I'm trying to think of an Adam Scott, when you actually break it down into like impact positions and positions after impact, actually not that different, and it might look a lot different to the eye, but they do a lot of very similar stuff.
Mm-hmm.